I grew up with Chris Randall. We started a business together, got married, and had twin daughters, thinking it would be happiness for a lifetime, but he fell for his female assistant. On Memorial Day picnic he cancelled plans to be with her, causing our allergic daughter to pass away without receiving her life-saving medicine. I held my daughter's body, but saw his intimate post with her on social media, then caught them in the act at home. He even helped her frame me. My daughter was gone, and my heart died with her. I left with her ashes, far from him. But 3 years later, he came crying, begging for forgiveness. But my heart had already died with my daughter. On Memorial Day holiday, my busy husband finally agreed to go on a picnic with the family. The twin daughters were so happy, jumping around. But as soon as we arrived, Chris Randall got a call from his assistant, left on his own against my wishes. Before long, Daisy and Grace were stung by bees. They had a natural allergy, quickly started convulsing, and had difficulty breathing. I urgently called Chris Randall, because the epinephrine auto-injector was in the car. If he turned back, the girls could be saved. But the phone rang for 5 minutes before he picked up. His tone was impatient. I already told you, I'm meeting an important client. Don't call unless it's urgent. Why do you always ignore what I say? I quickly explained. The girls are in trouble. Please come back. He was even more annoyed. Tell those two troublemakers to stop bothering. I'll take them to the zoo tomorrow to make it up. He hung up the phone and I called again, but it was already off. There were no taxis in the wild, and by the time the ambulance arrived, Daisy and Grace had already closed their eyes forever. Just as I was crying over their bodies, Chris Randall's assistant, Chen Wan Shu, updated her social media. The happiest thing is having you by my side. I hope our relationship can grow like a tree, under the blue sky and white clouds. She and Chris Randall were in the Volunteer Park Conservatory, watering plants, embracing intimately. In front of them, a newly planted sapling stood. I wiped away my tears and liked the post. Happy Memorial Day. May your love be eternal. I sat on a bench, holding 2 death certificates. My expression was numb and stiff. I don't know how long it had been when a staff member walked over. He softly reminded me, Miss Song, according to our customs in Springfield, before cremation, you need to prepare clothes for the children. Clothes? Oh, I'll go home and get them. I'll go home and get them. I mechanically repeated, my voice hoarse and unfamiliar. I stood up, but my legs felt as heavy as lead. Seeing my state, the staff member asked with concern, would you like me to contact the children's father? The children's father? My lips twitched slightly. The man who should have shared the grief of losing our daughter was probably lying in another woman's arms now. I declined the staff member's kind offer, dragging my heavy steps toward the parking lot. The sunlight outside the Seattle funeral home was blinding. Just 3 days ago, under the same sunlight, my twin daughters were running and playing on the grass, their laughter as clear as silver bells. Now, the laughter had forever disappeared, smothered by bee stings and a mother's indifference. They were lying cold in the morgue, quietly awaiting cremation. At the doorstep, there were high heels on the shoe rack. Just as I was entering the password for the door, I heard ambiguous conversation inside. Chris Randall, are you sure Samantha Lee won't suddenly come back? Don't worry, I asked the security guard. She hasn't been back for the past few days. She must have taken the 2 troublemakers somewhere to play. My hand stopped on the doorknob. All my blood seemed to freeze. When Daisy and Grace were born, Chris Randall treated them like precious gems. Like any other father, he showered them with care and love. He was so careful, afraid to break them, afraid to melt them. Every time the girls fell asleep, he would lie next to them, watching them with loving eyes, sometimes kissing them. Many times, I even felt jealous. I used to be grateful to have a man I could rely on, one who made sure our daughters grew up happy and loved. But I never imagined this would change after Chen Wan Shu became his assistant. He started leaving early and coming home late, leaving the task of picking up the girls from kindergarten to me. The homemade dinners that should have been made every evening were only occasionally served to the girls. He would skip every weekend family activity, citing work, completely ignoring the disappointed expressions on the girls' faces. One time, when Chen Wan Shu came to visit, the girls were making a bit too much noise, and she frowned. Chris Randall immediately shouted, you 2 troublemakers, stop bothering Auntie, go back to your room. Daisy and Grace froze in fear, obediently going back to their room. I reminded Chris Randall not to be so harsh on the girls, and he immediately rebutted, am I wrong? Why can't you act like an adult? Calling them troublemakers is a light punishment. You don't know how to raise them. 100,000 yuan a semester on kindergarten, and they still don't know how to behave. I was speechless. From that moment on, Chris Randall stopped calling the girls by their nicknames and started calling them troublemakers. I gently pushed the door open, and the scene before me felt like a knife marinacing my heart. Chen Wanshu was sitting on Chris Randall's lap, her skirt lifted, revealing her long, smooth legs wrapped in stockings. The air was thick with the scent of desire. I said nothing, only quietly watched them. The two on the sofa quickly separated, as if shocked. Chris Randall hurriedly adjusted his suit, while Chen Wanshu stood up, flustered, trying to explain. Song, don't misunderstand. I was just helping Chris Randall with a leg massage. Samantha Lee, you're back? Chris Randall's face flashed a moment of panic, but it quickly turned into anger. Why didn't you knock before entering? That familiar handsome face now felt terribly unfamiliar, facing Chris Randall's accusations. I didn't yell or cause a scene. I simply said, I just came back to get 2 sets of clothes for the girls. I hope I didn't disturb you. Perhaps because I seemed too calm. Chris Randall's eyes showed a flicker of guilt. He grabbed my hand and patiently explained. Samantha Lee, I know it was wrong not to go with you and the girls to the picnic that day, but I couldn't help it. The client came too suddenly. I shouldn't have brought Wanshu home without asking you. I swear to God, nothing happened between us. She was just massaging my leg. Hearing this excuse, I knew it was all a lie. I quietly watched my husband, my heart bleeding. My daughter was lying in the Seattle funeral home, awaiting cremation. Chris Randall not only didn't care for 3 whole days, but also brought another woman home. A man like him didn't deserve to be a father, nor did he deserve to accompany his daughter on her final journey. I said nothing, and crumpled the death certificates in my pocket, tossing them in the trash, then walked toward the girls' room. When I opened the door, the familiar scent rushed at me, the smell of crayons, stuffed animals, and the sweet childhood scent of my daughters. Standing in front of the wardrobe, I could no longer hold back, letting the tears flow freely. Chen Wanshu had sneaked away, and Chris Randall was standing behind me at some point. Samantha Lee, how long are you going to keep this up? I ignored him, silently opening the wardrobe and taking out 2 pink little dresses. I gently smoothed out the creases, as if they were the most precious treasures in the world. These dresses were bought with my own money for the girls' birthday last month. I had told them it was a gift from their dad. Daisy and Grace were so happy, their little faces full of joy, but they didn't know their father was in Hainan on a business trip, and couldn't even be bothered to send a birthday greeting. I packed the dresses and went out, but Chris Randall grabbed me, pushing me forcefully onto the sofa. Samantha Lee, stop making trouble. His unique scent closed in, a smell that used to make me infatuated, but now, it made me sick to my stomach. I turned my head to avoid him. Chris Randall frowned, but quickly relaxed. His face showed the long-forgotten gentleness. Samantha Lee, I know I've been distant and cold lately, but it's not my fault. You know how complicated things at the company are. If it weren't for Wanshu, I wouldn't even have had time to come home, he explained while trying to unbutton my shirt. We haven't done this in a while, and since the 2 troublemakers aren't here, we can finally enjoy ourselves. Hearing the words, troublemakers, again, my heart was stabbed sharply. With all my strength, I pushed him away, caught off guard. Chris Randall almost fell, his face filled with shock. Samantha Lee, what are you doing? In his memory, I had never rejected his advances. Even after Chen Wanshu appeared, I had still indulged him once or twice a year. The disgust in my eyes unsettled him. Chris Randall, you're no longer the man you used to be. I took a deep breath and walked out without turning back. Behind me, Chris Randall shouted angrily. Samantha Lee, I told you everything was a misunderstanding. I never did anything with Wanshu. Why are you always so petty? If you dare leave today, don't ever come back. Take your 2 troublemakers and get as far away as possible. Don't think the earth will stop turning just because you're gone. The funeral hall was silent. My heartbeat was the only sound I could hear. I stood alone in front of the 2 small coffins, my expression stiff and numb. Daisy and Grace were wearing their pink dresses, quietly lying there as if they were just sleeping. Miss Song, it's time, the staff gently reminded me. I nodded but couldn't take my eyes off their faces. The scenes of their lives flashed through my mind. The first time they learned to walk. The first time they laughed with their stuffed animals. The first time they called out, Mommy, and Daddy. The first time they were so happy singing and dancing at the amusement park. These images sliced through my heart like a knife. I regretted asking Chris Randall so desperately to take the girls out on the picnic before Memorial Day. If I hadn't forced him, Daisy and Grace might have been fine, so I'm partly responsible for their deaths. As the coffin was pushed into the crematorium, the tears I had held back flooded out. The process was quick, but it felt like a century. When the staff handed me the 2 small urns, my hands trembled. almost unable to hold them. The boxes were light, but they suffocated me. Walking out of the Seattle funeral home, the sky was gloomy. I stood on the steps, looking at the gray buildings in the distance, and made a decision. I would leave here, take my daughters and leave this place of betrayal and pain forever. I blacklisted Chris Randall from all my contacts, went back to the empty house, and started packing up the girls' belongings. Crayons, Legos, little backpacks. Every item was filled with countless memories. My gaze landed on a photo frame on the bedside table. It was a picture from 2 years ago when the whole family went to Disneyland. Chris Randall was in the center, holding one child in each arm, hugging them tightly, smiling happily. At that time, Chen Wanshu hadn't joined the company yet. Now, that smile had become the greatest irony. I packed everything up, took one last look at this home that was once filled with laughter. I placed the signed divorce agreement on the coffee table, and quietly closed the door. At the company, I opened my office door. On my desk was a photo from the girls' first month. The two little ones, soft and plump, with round, chubby arms and legs. So cute they were intoxicating. Just as I picked up the photo, a voice came from behind. "Oh, isn't this Song Jia? What brings you back to the office today?" I turned around, only to see Chen Wanshu leaning in the doorway, smirking with a mocking smile. She wore a neat business outfit, her long black hair smooth and natural, her eyes full of provocation. I ignored her and stuffed the photo into my jacket pocket. Chen Wanshu closed the door and walked over. "Song Jia, you suddenly came back to the office. You're not here to steal business secrets, are you? Come on, give me whatever you're hiding." I answered, "It's not a business secret, just a photo of my daughters." "Just photos of those two troublemakers? I don't believe it." Chen Wanshu grinned. "Song Jia, you've worked at this company, but it's been so long since you've been here. You should know the rules. Don't make me call security. Give it to me. I just wanted to leave with my daughter's belongings, not make a scene." I suppressed my anger and took the photo out, but before I knew it, Chen Wanshu ripped it into shreds. Fury burned in my chest. "What are you doing?" "Nothing. Just checking if there's anything suspicious in those photos." Chen Wanshu threw the torn pieces on the ground, clapping her hands. "No problem. Song Jia, you can go now. By the way, if you want to come to the company again, please register at the front desk. After all, we are a legitimate company. Not just any random person can walk in." I trembled in anger, and just then, the familiar sound of footsteps came from outside the door. Chen Wanshu's eyes flashed with malice, and she suddenly grabbed the stapler on the desk, smashing it against her forehead. Blood instantly flowed down her face. I stared in shock as she staggered backward, screaming, "No, please don't hurt me." The door was pushed open violently, and Chris Randall saw the scene, his face turning pale instantly. "Samantha Lee, what are you doing? Why hurt Wanshu?" Chen Wanshu wailed. "Mr. Cheng, I already explained to Song Jia, I was really just helping him with a leg massage. But she wouldn't listen. She thinks I'm the third party ruining your marriage. She even said she'd kill me." Chris Randall quickly helped her up and turned to glare at me. "Samantha Lee, are you out of your mind? I've told you 1,000 times. I've always treated Wanshu like a sister. There's nothing inappropriate between us. She's not a third party. Even if she were, you shouldn't have laid your hands on her. Now apologize to Wanshu, or I'll call the police." I stared at the mess of shredded paper, then at Chris Randall, and suddenly laughed. My smile was filled with exhaustion and relief. "Chris Randall, you really disgust me. I won't apologize. Do whatever you want." After that, I walked past them and left the office without looking back. As I walked away, Chris Randall's heart felt like it had been hollowed out. He felt a sense of something being wrong, but he didn't know why. He stood up, wanting to chase after me, but just as he took a step, Chen Wanshu moaned, stopping him in his tracks. "Wanshu, are you okay? Don't worry, I'll take you to the hospital." After taking her to the hospital, Chris Randall immediately called my phone. Finding himself blocked, his heart sank. Before he could react, he got a call from the new housekeeper Maria. "Mr. Cheng, do you have a moment? What's the matter?" "While cleaning your house, I found 2 death certificates in the trash. Just wanted to ask if you want them cleared out." Chris Randall froze. "Death certificates? Whose?" "I'll check." Cheng Xiaoduo and Cheng Xiaoguo. Looks like they were twins. "What?" Hearing the housekeeper Maria's words, his pupils shrank into pinpoints, like being struck by a thunderbolt. "Daisy and Grace, they're dead?" Chris Randall's hand trembled as he held the phone, a buzzing sound filling his ears. The housekeeper Maria's voice seemed distant, but every word cut through his heart. He hung up abruptly, rushing out of the hospital, ignoring Chen Wanshu's shouting. The car sped down the road home, Chris Randall's mind flashing with images of his daughter's little faces. He thought of the first time Daisy and Grace called Daddy, of the little cuties handing him their crooked handmade cards, of their joyful jumps at Disneyland and the beach. He remembered their disappointed looks when he didn't show up, their fear when they were called troublemakers. Chris Randall's heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain almost unbearable. His mind was a mess, and he ran 4 or 5 red lights before finally reaching home. He trembled as he took the crumpled death certificates from the housekeeper Maria. The cold, clear printing on the paper. Cheng Xiaoguo, cause of death, allergic shock. Cheng Xiaoguo, cause of death, allergic shock. The date was May 1st. Chris Randall's legs gave out and he collapsed to the ground, tears blurring his vision. Then, he noticed the signed divorce agreement on the coffee table. Samantha Lee's signature was clear, the pen pressing through the paper as if she had poured all her strength into it. This can't be true, he mumbled through his tears, his fingers tracing Daisy and Grace's names. Mr. Cheng, what's wrong? Chen Wanshu had somehow followed him. Seeing his disoriented expression, she quickly rushed to support him. She glanced at the death certificates and the divorce agreement on the coffee table. Her eyes flickered. Then she smirked. Mr. Cheng, these things are definitely fake. Samantha Lee must have forged them. Samantha Lee has really gone to any lengths to win you back. She even dares to tell such a lie. Chris Randall raised his head, a trace of doubt crossing his mind. Fake? Definitely, Chen Wanshu said confidently. She's trying to scare you with those 2 death certificates and make you feel guilty with the divorce agreement. That woman, she'll do anything to get her way. I planned to explain things to her at the company earlier, but she just picked up the ashtray and smashed it on my head, calling me a mistress and threatening me. If you hadn't come in time, I might have been killed. Looking at the bandage on her head, Chris Randall's face twisted from sadness to anger. Samantha Lee, that crazy woman, actually dares to use this against me. I was blind to marry her. Chen Wanshu seized the opportunity. I've always said Samantha Lee was narrow-minded and extreme. She's not worthy of your trust. She not only attacked me, but also forged death certificates. She's truly insane. Well, since she's already prepared the divorce papers, why not go with it and finally be rid of her? Chris Randall nodded, and just as he grabbed the pen, the housekeeper Maria spoke up again. Mr. Cheng, I don't think these death certificates are fake. What kind of parent would joke about their own child's death? Also, they have the hospital stamp on them. It's not that far. You can go ask and verify. Chris Randall hesitated, and Chen Wanshu looked panicked. Mr. Cheng, don't waste your time. If you go now, she might have bribed the doctors too. If it were before, Chris Randall would have trusted Chen Wanshu without question. But remembering the way Samantha Lee left, his unease grew. He dropped the pen, grabbed the car keys, and hurried out the door. No, I need to go to the hospital and ask for myself. Chen Wanshu chased after him, but only saw a cloud of exhaust. Her face twisted with resentment. The hospital corridor was cold and long. Chris Randall found the duty doctor that day, his voice trembling. Doctor, I need to confirm, are these 2 death certificates fake? The doctor glanced at the certificates, then looked up with pity in his eyes. Are you the children's father? He nodded, his throat tight. His heart silently prayed, hoping the doctor would say the certificates were fake. The doctor sighed and pulled out the medical records. The situation was very urgent that day. When the children were brought to the hospital, they had already stopped breathing. We mobilized all hospital resources to save them. But, he paused. Unfortunately, we were unable to save them in the end. Tears streamed down Chris Randall's face. How did they? The doctor spoke heavily. According to the mother, they were stung by bees in the wild. Due to their natural allergies, their condition worsened quickly, and by the time the ambulance arrived, it was already too late. He glanced at Chris Randall, hesitant to continue. Your wife cried almost to the point of fainting, saying it was her fault for not protecting the children. She shouldn't have left the epinephrine auto-injector in the car. Chris Randall suddenly remembered that day, when he left alone for less than 10 minutes on May Day, and Samantha Lee had called urging him to come back. She wasn't angry. She was worried about the medicine in the car. The image of Samantha Lee desperately holding their daughters and crying out in despair flooded his mind, and his heart was torn apart. The doctor continued. She handled all the arrangements alone, signed the documents. To be honest, we've never seen a mother as desperate as she was. Every word felt like a dull knife, slowly and cruelly slicing through Chris Randall's heart. He remembered how cold he was on the phone with Samantha Lee, remembered how he called their daughters troublemakers, remembered the intimacy with Chen Wanshu in the Volunteer Park Conservatory after he hung up the phone. Regret washed over him like a tide, and he covered his face, crying out in anguish. Samantha Lee, Daisy, Grace, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He repeated it over and over, as if this would make up for his mistakes and ease the pain in his heart. The doctor silently handed him a tissue, softly saying, "My condolences." When he left the hospital, Chris Randall's steps were unsteady, as if walking on cotton. Chen Wanshu rushed toward him, arms open, wanting to embrace him, a concerned look on her face. "How's it going, Mr. Cheng? I told you Samantha Lee was deceiving you." Chris Randall's eyes were hollow. "They're really dead. My daughters are dead." Chen Wanshu froze for a moment, still trying to convince him. It must be a misunderstanding. Samantha Lee must have done something to manipulate things. Chris Randall looked at her, and suddenly the face that once made his heart race seemed completely unfamiliar. Just then, his phone rang. He looked down, and saw 2 video messages from his secretary. The first video was from this morning. Chen Wanshu standing at the office door, a sinister, smug smile on her face. As footsteps approached, she grabbed an ashtray, smashed it against her forehead without hesitation, and collapsed on the floor, screaming. The footage was so clear it hurt. From start to finish, Samantha Lee hadn't even touched her once. The second video was from the previous night. Chen Wanshu sitting in Samantha Lee's chair, crossing her legs while talking on the phone. "Darling, I've taken care of Cheng. This foolish man loves me so much. All I have to do is get rid of his wife and those 2 troublemakers, and the company will be mine." "Marriage? Don't be ridiculous. I could never marry him. He's much older than me, and it's his second marriage. Only a fool would marry him. Honestly, every time I sleep with him, I close my eyes so I won't be disgusted. Once the company is liquidated, I'll find a chance to go abroad and be with you. Don't worry, the only person I love is you." Chris Randall's face went pale, his fist clenched tightly, nails digging into his flesh. He looked up, his eyes full of disgust and anger as he glared at Chen Wanshu. You actually staged this, framed Samantha Lee? And you got close to me just for my company?" Chen Wanshu panicked. "Mr. Cheng, let me explain. These videos are obviously fake. Samantha Lee must have had someone edit them. Secretary Lin must have been bribed by her too." The truth could no longer be hidden. He forgot that Secretary Lin had always been like a brother to him and could never be bought. "Enough," Chris Randall interrupted sharply. "Xiao Lin has already verified it. The woman on the phone is named Jake Lee, your childhood friend. You've been in contact all these years, and you talked to him more than me. I was blind to believe a person like you." As the truth was completely exposed, Chen Wanshu's expression twisted. "So what? Does it matter if you regret it now? It's too late. Samantha Lee is gone, your daughters are dead, and you're the one who killed them. All of this is your own doing." These words were like the final straw, completely breaking Chris Randall. He staggered back a few steps, tears falling silently. Yes, it was all his fault. He had been blinded by desire and sweet words. He ignored his wife's sincerity. He killed his beautiful twin daughters. He destroyed his own family. Chris Randall turned and walked away, his back lonely and desperate. Chen Wanshu shouted something behind him, but he couldn't hear it anymore. The sky began to rain. The cold rain mixed with tears running down his face. Chris Randall walked aimlessly, like a zombie, memories flashing in his mind like a movie. Samantha Lee's gentle side as she made breakfast for him and their daughters. Samantha Lee lifting them high in Disneyland, their laughter ringing through the air. Daisy and Grace holding back tears when he didn't show up. He crouched in the rain, crying loudly, but no one would wipe his tears anymore. No one would call him Dad. And there was no woman named Samantha Lee silently guarding him anymore. Regretful tears washed over Chris Randall's face. The death of his daughters couldn't be undone, and now the only thing he could still try to salvage was Samantha Lee. He wiped his tears and called Secretary Lin. "Xiao Lin, no matter the cost, no matter what it takes, help me find Samantha Lee, please." After canceling all identification records, I arrived at a remote island, because Daisy and Grace once said, their most desired place was the sea. It was midsummer. The salty sea breeze, carrying the distinct smell of the fishing port, hit my face, and the cries of seagulls echoed across the vast sea. Everything here was so different from Springfield. No tall buildings, no bustling traffic, no people rushing about or scheming, only winding stone paths and rusted fishing boats. I buried the girls' ashes at the highest point in the Maui Memorial Park. It had a broad view, overlooking the endless blue sea. I believe they must be very happy there. I planted pink daisies by the small grave, their favorite flower when they were alive. Every morning, I bring fresh flowers and sit quietly for a while, as if they were still playing by my side. Gradually, I got used to the rhythm of life here, fishing, walking by the sea, chatting. Life felt pleasant and easy. The island residents were simple and warm, and soon accepted me as an outsider. Due to a lack of substitute teachers at the island's elementary school, the principal, upon learning I was a college graduate, warmly invited me to join. At first, I declined, but when I saw the eager eyes of the children, I finally agreed. If Daisy and Grace hadn't passed away, they would be starting first grade now. The classroom was always full of laughter, especially after I became a substitute teacher. When I read fairy tales to the students, I would mimic various animal sounds, just like I did when I told Daisy and Grace bedtime stories. When grading papers, I would draw little red flowers, the reward Daisy and Grace always wanted in kindergarten. After school, the students often gathered around me, asking all kinds of questions. Their innocent smiles were like warm sunlight, slowly soothing the scars in my heart. Leo Shu, the youngest music teacher at the school, he always wore a neat white shirt and sat on the roof playing the harmonica. The first time I saw him, he was leading the children in a song on the playground, sunlight filtering through the leaves of the sycamore trees and casting dappled shadows on him. That smile reminded me of Chris Randall from university, who was once as sunny and warm. I grew up with Chris Randall. We were childhood friends, classmates from kindergarten to university, and our bond was always strong. Everyone who knew us envied our amazing connection. After graduation, we started a business together. Under the blessing of fortune, our company flourished, growing larger and larger. The long companionship and mutual understanding led us to marry. After Daisy and Grace were born, I thought I was the happiest woman in the world. Unfortunately, childhood friends couldn't compete with fate. Chen Wan Shu was hired by Chris Randall directly, and from her first day at work, I could tell something was off with the way my husband looked at her, but I didn't think much of it. Ignoring everyone's objections, Chris Randall moved the inexperienced Chen Wan Shu into his office and made her his personal assistant, spending every day together. Over time, rumors started to spread. Some subordinates subtly warned me that there might be something going on between Chris Randall and assistant Chen. The next day, that subordinate was fired. Then, Chris Randall told me to stop worrying about the company and just stay home as a housewife. At the time, I loved him and trusted him, so I agreed. This concession made them more and more reckless, often being affectionate in public. When Chris Randall's attitude toward his family changed, I realized his heart might already be somewhere else. But Daisy and Grace were still small, and I didn't want them to suffer the pain of losing their father, so I endured. I never imagined that my endurance would eventually lead to their death. One rainy afternoon after school, I saw Leo Shu didn't have an umbrella, so I took the initiative to walk him home. We shared an umbrella in the rain, and the faint scent of soap on him reminded me of the gardenias blooming in Springfield in May. On the way, he suddenly said, "Teacher Song, can I ask you a question? You look so gentle when you teach, but why do your eyes always seem so sad?" I froze for a moment, and the rain slid down the ribs of the umbrella, just like the tears I shed when I said goodbye to my daughters. Seeing that I didn't answer, he didn't ask again, but simply took out a tissue and gently wiped away the tears at the corner of my eye. Without realizing it, Leo Shu entered my life, and I began to open up to him. He would bring me delicious late-night snacks when I was grading papers until late at night, help maintain discipline when students were mischievous, and accompany me every morning to take flowers to Daisy and Grace's graves. One time, he knelt beside their graves and softly said, "Daisy, Grace, don't worry, I'll take good care of your mom." In that moment, the sea breeze seemed to grow gentler. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. One evening, as I was organizing lesson plans in the classroom, I suddenly heard hurried footsteps in the corridor. That familiar rhythm made my pen tear through the paper. When I looked up, Chris Randall was standing in the doorway, his pale face marked with traces of unshed tears. "Samantha Lee." His voice trembled, out of tune. The sunset stretched his shadow long across the room. I noticed the wedding ring still on his left hand, the band clearly loose, swinging on his bony finger. The once powerful Chris Randall, now a mere shadow of himself, had grown thin and frail. "About Daisy and Grace, he began, but choked on his words, stepping forward with his arms outstretched, trying to embrace me like before. I pushed him away and said calmly, "Chris Randall, we're already divorced." Those words pressed a switch, and his tears came flooding down. "Samantha Lee, I know I was wrong. Daisy and Grace's deaths were my fault. I've been regretting it every day for the past 3 years. praying for a chance to see you again. Do you know how much time, money, and effort I've spent to find you? He cried desperately, his once perfectly groomed hair now sticking to his tear-soaked face. Had this been the old me, my heart would have ached with compassion, but now, my heart felt no stir. Just as Chris Randall was begging for forgiveness, Leo Shu arrived. He was holding a lunchbox and a new outfit he had bought for me. Seeing the bright, handsome young teacher, Chris Randall seemed to understand something. He wiped his tears and made his final request. Can you take me to see them? I didn't want to agree, but the understanding Leo Shu showed convinced me. Okay, I'll take you, but just this once. From now on, please don't come to bother us again. On the way to the cemetery, Chris Randall clutched the doll in his arms. It was a gift he had given Daisy and Grace for their 3rd birthday. Just because of that one time he argued with Chen Wanshu, he not only called his daughters troublemakers, but also hid the doll away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Leo Shu riding his bike, trailing behind us at a distance. He was still worried. The cemetery was peaceful and serene under the night sky. Pink daisies swayed gently in the evening breeze. 2 small tombstones stood side by side, engraved with my daughters' names and their photos. Chris Randall knelt before the graves, his face pressed against the cold marble, crying uncontrollably. Daisy, Grace, Daddy's here. Daddy's come to see you. I stood to the side, my heart aching too, until Leo Shu quietly came to my side, taking my hand. His palm was warm and strong, like a sudden spark in the cold winter. When Chris Randall cried until he was exhausted, he suddenly wobbled to his feet, staggering toward the edge of a cliff. Leo Shu and I rushed forward and grabbed him, but he struggled, crying out, "Let me go. Let me be with them. I killed them. I don't deserve to be their father. I deserve to go to hell." Suddenly, Leo Shu slapped him hard across the face. Are you crazy? If the kids see their father kill himself in heaven, they'll be even more heartbroken. The slap seemed to wake Chris Randall up. He collapsed to the ground, the moonlight casting a pale glow on his swollen eyes. Samantha Lee, will you forgive me? I shook my head. Actually, I've stopped hating you a long time ago. Chris Randall cried silently. This wasn't forgiveness, but a crueler kind of letting go. He was no longer the most important person in my life. As I took Chris Randall to the marina, he suddenly turned to Leo Shu and said, "Please, love her well." Then, with unsteady steps, he walked away without looking back. The sound of the Ferris horn cut through the night sky, and as I watched the lights grow distant, I felt a sense of relief. Leo Shu wrapped his arm around my shoulder and asked if I wanted to go back to see the kids. I nodded. We returned to the cemetery, and I found the doll Chris Randall had left, placed neatly in front of the graves. Next to it was a familiar wedding ring, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The waves gently lapped at the rocks, like an eternal lullaby. I held my lover close. Finally, I could say goodbye to the past.